and then there's document safeguarding, then there's facility security, and all of those steps are then signed off by whom?
Well, if you have those requirements,
once you've submitted them, who signs those off?
PSPC.
So public official, somebody in the bureaucracy.
Yes.
How many people sign those off?
I think there's a team of people there. I have numerous
names. Is it supposed to be 4, or do you know the rules around that? Is it supposed to be 4?
I have no idea.
So okay. So let's just say somebody signs those, what you've submitted, wherever, over the portal. Yep. Somebody has to sign those off, yep. And it's public officials. Do you get a response from somebody?
I do.
Who is that?
It would be, I don't have the name in front of me. I'm happy to go through my emails and send you the...
if you could please submit who signs those, which public officials sign off what you submit. I'm just going to go into, ultimately what I've sort of seen is like there's a lot of relationships here. You know the folks at Cordix, you know the folks at Dalian, you know others, and you're a recruiter. You said you're a recruiter. Everyone out there seems to be sort of sharing. There's subcontractors who probably work across other companies. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Subcontractors are free to work with whomever they want.
Okay, so now you got public officials signing off. There's a whole industry of people like yourself, and you have all these subcontractors who probably over time become known, and everybody knows who's who, you know, and this sort of brings me back to everybody working. Everybody knows the system. It's been the same since 2003, has not changed. So in a way, would it be accurate to say everybody's colluding together to do this, and whether it's what the price limits are and all of those things, does everybody sort of have the same pricing, and there's so much work to go around that doesn't matter? Everybody can pick and choose whoever's not working on something. Hey, why don't you go here? Is everybody talking to one another?
That's our time, Mr. Baines.
Yes or
if
no?
you're able to offer a quick answer.
No.
Okay. Thanks very much. Mrs. Vignola, please, for 2.5.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me come back to the procedural aspect. The work of GC Strategies on ArriveCAN, was it supervised, verified, and approved by the competent authorities? And I'm talking about the border services.
I don't have that information.
Vous personnellement.
You personally, be it the border services as part of the ArriveCAN contract, who supervised you from the CBSA? Who asked you questions?
I have no information on that.
Donc, vous ne savez pas.
So you do not know whether anyone asked you questions about your work on ArriveCAN? Very well.
OK, merci. Donc, personne.
So no one questioned you? Yes, I'm asking questions to try to understand how GC Strategies work, how numbered companies function, the numbered companies that you own. But I'm trying to understand as well how we lose control of management of public funds and taxes of Canadians. And where do those taxes go? The money that was received from GC Strategies, was did some of it go to subcontractors, and did some of it go into your pockets? Well, the one that you pocketed, is it still in Canada?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're referring to with which one have you pocketed?
Les profits,
I'm talking about the profits that you earned. Are they still in Canada or were they sent elsewhere to some foreign companies or foreign trust? Is that money still in Canada?
Everything is still in Canada.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bachrach for 2.5, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Anthony, how did you respond to the news that the government had banned your company from all government contracts?
I was very upset.
And what steps did you take after receiving that news?
We've taken no steps so far.
Did you meet with your business partner to discuss the suspension of government contracts?
I made him aware that we were no longer able to do business with the federal government.
So this news was communicated to you, and then you communicated it to Mr. Firth?
Yes, I received the email.
And that was prior to having your security status suspended?
Yes, the notification came in on February the 14th, and I believe our security was suspended on March the 1st.
And after having your contract suspended, did you meet with Mr. Firth to determine the best course of action for your company?
We had discussed what our steps would be going forward, but we didn't really get into detail as we have been focusing on these committee meetings.
And did you communicate with the government after learning that that your contracts had been suspended?
I communicated with the departments that have reached out to me to send us documents to sign off on contracts that were existing to let our resources know they were no longer able to work.
And what was the substance of those conversations with the departments that you communicated with?
They would just say they signed a amendment to a contract that the contract was on hold or terminated.
And did you or Mr. Firth appeal in any way this decision by the government to suspend all your contracts? Both you and Mr. Firth have asserted to the committee that you've done nothing wrong, and all of a sudden the government takes away all your business. Did you appeal that decision?
Not yet.
Do you intend to? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, go ahead and answer, Mr. Anthony.
Maybe.
Thanks. Mr. Sousa now, please, for 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Anthony, did you know or have you ever met Mr. McDonald or Mr. Otano?
No, I have not.
You've never spoken to them?
Nope.
You never participated in any meetings? If that's the case, okay. And do you know the principals of Bottler AI? Did you ever meet with them?
No, I've never met with them. The only interaction I've had with Bottler has been security.
So what did you do in regards to providing clearance of security, or what did you do in that case with those two individuals?
And those two individuals reached out to me asking how to get security cleared with the federal government. I gave them the instructions around they needed to get fingerprinting. I found a place in Montreal, that's where they were residing at the time, that does federal fingerprinting. Got them through that process. They sent me back their documents with the DCN numbers on it. They sent me their date of births and their citizenships. I submitted that through the OLIS portal, and they were able to get security cleared.
So you facilitated their engagement. Now, they didn't have a contract. Is that correct? Like, why did they need security clearance? What exactly was taking place?
I have no knowledge of that.
So who instructed you to provide the requirements for fingerprinting and security engagement? Like, how did that come to be?
I believe they reached out to me to say they needed the security clearance.
So the two principals reached out to you. So this would have been Mr. Mir Mauerf and Rakita Dutt? They
Yes.
So they reached out to you.
I believe so, yes.
And their request was, hey, we need clearance in order to engage with the federal government
Yes.
without a contract. Now,
Without a contract. At that time, you were able to do that.
you
to
were
start
able to,
to start the process. You can, if you're submitting a bid on an RFP that you're not awarded, there could be a number or an identifier associated with that. But prior to a few years ago, you would be able to submit a name for security clearance and say that they were just a consultant and they would be able to get a clearance.
and Mr. Firth had been in contact with them as well, concurrent with you, with their engagement?
I don't have any knowledge of his contact with Bottler.
Okay, so Bottler is the one that contacted you to get matters for their security, and no contract was evident. They were going through a preliminary study, pilot, whatever it was called, and that's why they needed this clearance, which you facilitated them to get.
Yeah, I would assume so.
And you being an owner of GC Strategies, a major owner, half 50% owner, didn't have a contract with the government regarding their engagement either. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So GC Strategies doesn't have a contract, Bottler doesn't have a contract, so you're facilitating security clearance for them to potentially get a contract.
Yes.
And there was no RFP. There was no request for contracts because there was nothing being proposed at that point.
There was no RFP, no.
Are you aware there are accusations against GC Strategies and how they operated relative to their conduct?
I have no knowledge of that.
They've disputed that GC Strategies misrepresented them in regards to their resumes or their qualifications when they dealt with, I believe, Dalian, who ultimately got the contract. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Are you aware of Dalian's engagement in subcontracting? Well, I guess, did Dalian subcontract GC Strategies?
I have no knowledge of that.
Did Dalian provide funds to GC Strategies?
I have no knowledge of that.
Do you know if Bottler got paid for their services through GC Strategies or through Dalian?
I have no knowledge of that.
Thank you, Mr. Souza. Colleagues, I apologize. I skipped over the conservative round, so we will all go to. I was so anxious to hear from Mr. Souza.
You caught me off guard too.
Yeah, sorry. So we're going to go to Mr. Brock, and then we'll go to Mr. Genuis and Mr. Shawari to finish, and then the Bloc NDP. Go ahead, Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Anthony, do you currently have, or have you had in the past, any relatives working with the Government of Canada?
No.
All right. You'd agree with me, sir. I'm going to ask you a number of rapid fire questions. You'd agree with me, sir, that Christian Firth really is the sole public face of Government of Canada strategies?
No.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Souza.
I don't believe it's called Government of Canada GC Strategies. I don't think that's the name of the company.
Yeah,
We've already resolved
Yeah, it's
that.
not a point of order, Mr. Souza, but thanks. Mr. Brock, continue, sir.
Are you a public face?
I might be now.
You probably are. Yeah, that's a good observation. But you'd agree with me that Mr. Firth